So welcome back to our Simple Healthy Life podcast. And today I'm super excited. We're super excited to have Patriots Hall of Famer, Millennium Fitness member.
Yes.
And someone that I get the pleasure of talking to a couple times a week now, Steve Nelson. So thank you for for coming on the podcast. So I'm obviously excited. You can tell I'm a little more animated than usual, but I have so many questions for you, and I've kind of tried to ask them in passing in the gym, like poke and prod for information. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey and tell the audience a little bit about your journey. And I'd like to start when you were young.
Well, it was football for me was introduced when I was probably 2 or 3 years old because my dad was the local high school football coach, and he was very successful and coached there for about 32 years. He was just a great role model. He was, it was like all of us were his kids because he sat down with almost everyone on the team, whether he's played or not, and he made everybody feel like they're important, as they are. And he was just way ahead of his time as far as, back in the day when Newt Rockney was coaching and all those guys, and they're throwing their hats and they're, kicking kids in the rear end. He wasn't like that at all. He'd go sit on the bench with them, and, if the guy misses a field goal to lose the game, he would have his arm around him. So I learned a lot about him as far as being just a mentor, as how to be a good teammate, which I think in this world now with all the different sports having the ability to move like they're doing, players moving, it's not really, you're not hooked to a team anymore. And I was lucky. I had really a great experience at every level, and it was a team deal.
Were you guys good in high school? Just curious.
We won 33 games in a row before I got there. All this stuff's going before I got there. I mean, there's a pattern here. But we won 33 games in a row. We were state champions in Minnesota for a couple of years, and we had a lot of kids went to the University of Minnesota and played in North Dakota State, UND. A lot of kids went on further, and so we were a good team. My team, I think, was a little over 500.
Okay.
We were a bunch of losers on my, but it was great. It was, and again, it's high school, and you take it too seriously most of the time. But we all had a great time playing. That's the most important. Great friendships. I still have friendships that I have now when I was in high school and in Minnesota. So it's great.
So you finished there, and you got to play for your dad.
Yep.
And then you went to North Dakota State?
I went to Augsburg College for 1 year, and then I transferred to North Dakota State.
Where's Augsburg?
Augsburg's in Minneapolis. My uncle coached Augsburg's team, okay. And my cousin played. So we were close, and so. But it wasn't for me, so I transferred to North Dakota State, who had recruited me out of high school.
Okay.
And we went there, and my first year, they're undefeated national champions. Freshman, I wasn't eligible because I had transferred. And so I played my sophomore, junior, and senior year at North Dakota State. I think our record was probably 24-6 or something, and that was considered bad years. They're on a run right now. They've won 10 of the last 16 Division I AA championships, national championships.
Wow,
and they've gone to the next. Yeah, now they're going out and playing with. They've moved up in a conference now, so they're a Division I now. So see how they do.
Oh, did that just happen recently?
Recently, yeah, and it's a great place to play. I mean, that's the only thing they have, except duck hunting. In the fall, you hunt ducks and you watch football games basically. So it was a good place to play.
And what was your coach like there? So you played for your dad, and then you played for your uncle. Is that I understand?
Yeah.
And then you played for
1 year, yeah. And
somebody else.
I went to North Dakota State, and Ron Earhart was the head coach, who eventually became head coach of the Patriots.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were you there when he did that?
Yes. Yes, I was. And he left between my junior and senior year to come out here and be the offensive coordinator for Chuck Fairbanks. But it was great because I knew somebody, and he was really, I think he was very involved in me getting drafted in the second round and stuff, and because I had a bad injury my senior year in college. But
What happened?
I had a dislocated shoulder, which I had it. It was a posterior dislocation, which happens like 9 or 8% of the time. I tore my rotator cuff, and I cracked my humerus.
Making a tackle?
No, it was one of the last games of the year, and it was icy kind of. I fell down, hit my elbow just the right way, and out. Posterior dislocation.
Wow. So you got injured as a senior.
Yep.
And then still got drafted?
I was drafted in the second round.
Right away?
Yeah.
What was that process like?
Well, I had, because of the injury, I had a lot of, Minnesota Vikings brought me down, and, I think they probably gave the same talk to about 20 guys. We were really interested in picking you, and they were a very good team at the time. And they were in the lower first round, and I remember sitting and listening to the radio with my roommate, and we were listening because the Vikings said, be by your, we want to get a hold of you because we think we're going to draft you. And I said, okay, I'll be there. So I was in my room listening to the radio, and they came across the first round. It was somebody else. And I just kind of said to my roommate, I'm out of here. I'm going to go down to the library, which is a bar right outside campus.
What's called the library?
They call it the library. So my roommate gets a call from Chuck Fairbanks, and he goes, well, Steve around here? No, coach, he's at the library. And Fairbanks said something like, wow, the kid's biggest day of his life, and he's studying. And he goes, yes, sir, coach. But then I played in the All-American game that year, and I think I started playing football that year, probably around June 5th or so, ended up on Christmas. So I legitimate 6 months of football I played, and wore us all too much.
Too much.
Yeah.
So I want to go back for 1 second. Sorry, I know I keep asking. I'll let you. But
I think you're thinking of the same thing I am.
What was it like? I think about when nowadays you get drafted, you watch the TV and you have all the cameras and all the thing, and you're listening to the draft on the radio. How, can you just kind of describe that? That's just, for me, that's kind of mind blowing. Just you're literally listening on the radio, waiting for your landline phone, I imagine, to ring.
Exactly.
And just no other real communication, no other way to get a hold of you. I mean, you couldn't even get a hold of you, right? You were at the library. But
I was at the library. Yeah, there were 17 rounds back then. It lasted one day. I think they had 2 or 3 minutes between each pick, each team. There's probably maybe 30 teams at the time, 28 teams. But they got 7 rounds in probably 10 hours.
Wow.
A couple of my teammates got drafted also. And a couple guys in the year before got drafted. So a lot of us got drafted out of North Dakota State. And I was really fired up, when it started at 9 o'clock in the morning, but about 10 o'clock, when I heard this other guy's name, I kind of left. But it was a good experience, great experience,
Very cool.
Yeah. And the injury too. I mean, that must have been kind of tough leading up to, senior year, or to the potential or prospect of being drafted. I mean, how did that feel?
That was probably the toughest stage of my football career, because I missed my last 2 games as a senior, and so I ended up playing probably early November, and then in June I was playing again. So I recovered well.
Wow, quickly.
No operations. Yeah, my shoulder's been replaced, since. But I was at the right time, the right place for everything. The Patriots were a bad team. The veterans were on strike, so all of us rookies got in there, and that was a real show when we were practicing at UMass. All the rookies and some of the veterans came back across the picket line, and anyways, we would have to walk from our dressing room to to the practice field, and it was a pretty good walk, probably 300-400 yards. And all the veterans are lined up, throwing stuff at us, calling us scabs, and we're just hey, we don't know any better. We're stupid, so we just want to play. They go, you guys are a bunch of scabs. When we get in there, we're going to hurt all you.
Wow.
Okay, so that was interesting, and because of that, a lot of my class, we all got in, got the chance to play and show them. That's the big thing you got to do when you're on the fence or you're on the line. You got to show them how you play in a competitive atmosphere against your teammates and against somebody else. And we all had a chance to do that. And I think probably we had 10 or 11 at least rookies on the team. The teams weren't as big as they are now. There's no what do they call it? When they have a bunch of guys practicing with them, but they don't play.
Practice squad?
Yeah, practice squad. We didn't have any of that. So we practiced every day against each other, and it was just a different thing. Conceptually, the whole game of football was, make a first down, keep the ball, try to be dominant on, the line of scrimmage, and really, wear your opponent out. Now it's, open up, get off to your skill guys as quick as you can and make them do something. So it was really, I often wonder, where would I play? Right now, you see linebackers are 240, 250. I was about 230 when I played, but I wasn't real fast or anything else. So, I really would wonder where I'd play, position-wise.
Really?
Yeah. Be a long snapper or something.
I think you're underestimating it. I mean, how many do you still have the record for tackles? Don't you?
I do, yep.
Yeah, so I think they would have found a linebacker position for.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, but back then again they didn't throw the ball on first down basically. They ran the football, and if you got 4 yards, and you'd run it again.
Sure.
The first game I ever played professionally was against the Miami Dolphins after they won one of the Super Bowls, and they had Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris and Bob Greasy.
Was this right after their undefeated season?
No, that was 2 years after.
Okay.
I think 71 was their undefeated season. And anyways, I got on the field and I said, well, I don't belong here. They had, Jim Langer, who's a Hall of Famer, Kuchenberg, who's a Hall of Famer, playing guard, and I forget the other guard that played, but he was a good player too. And it was just, I felt like it was a dream that, I'm out here with these guys like Bob Greasy and Larry Zonka and all these guys. And but then like everything else, when the first snap happens, and you get hit, and you just kind of respond and get back in the huddle, and now you're all right. There's you don't know if there's 100,000 people in the stands or 100 people. You're just playing. Just playing football.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a question I'm pondering now is, well, so you get here and you're surrounded by all these like the veterans who are kind of like calling you scabs and all that kind of stuff, and then you're playing against Hall of Famers, these people who've just had, I don't know, however much experience over you. There must be some kind of like, oh, I don't necessarily belong here. And during the game, I can see how like, okay, you just get kind of like into the game, into the zone, but off the field, how do you stay focused off the field? How did you adjust to that? Well,
I was married and I had we had a daughter, so when you're 22 years old and you got some money and you're in Boston area, you can imagine what the guys did, So, but I was kind of, and not that I wanted to do it, but I had a family and stuff, so I was kind of a little different. I just listened to the stories, all the stories they tell me about going out. So,
So you just stayed focused because you had a family?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not that I didn't go out, but not as much as the other guys did.
So were you? I'm just going to back up for 1 second. Were you captain of your high school team?
I was.
Were you captain of your college team?
Yep.
And then you became captain of the Patriots. How long? How quickly?
I was my second year as captain.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. I want to know a little bit about that. I mean, you're so humble, but you must have a leadership style, probably learned from your dad, I imagine. And like, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I really never thought about that, Mike. But I think the position I played, you kind of inherit, the job of being, vocal. I gave the signals. I in the huddle and stuff like that. And I made when there's motions or they shifted. We'd make adjustments, and we were, the two inside linebackers were the guys who would give them the adjustments. So I think you kind of accepted the role of not so much as a leader, but as the guy who makes the calls. So that kind of involves leadership and stuff like that. And again, I think a lot of the guys I played with were my age, because of the big turnover from the veterans, and they didn't have a great team before, and now all the veterans are out on strike. So it was a chance for a lot of rookies to play.
So you just kind of stepped up and stepped into the role.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they asked you to be the captain for the first time?
Oh, they didn't ask you. They tell you. They don't ask you.
They just told you.
Yeah,
you're in charge.
Yeah.
Wow.
You go out for the coin flip. So.
And then you held that position for how many years?
Inside linebacker or captain?
Both.
I played for 14 years. I played. I started the first game as a rookie and the last game as 14th year. Wow. And I was a captain for probably 12 years of that, 10, 12 years.
Wow. Awesome.
But it's kind of a really, because I look back on this a lot because I got to play with a lot of different players who had personal effect on me. But when you're young, you kind of listen to the veterans. You don't want to. You just want to be in the locker room. You don't want to say anything. And then when you get to be 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, that's the real core of the team. You've kind of graduated from being a rookie and stuff like that, but you're still physically at your best. And then when you get older, you look back and you try to tell them what you think they should hear, but you don't know what they need, what they want to hear. And that group of players who are in the middle of their careers, they're the leaders, and you become a kind of a different guy, and which was really exciting for me. But I was lockered up to Andre Tippett, and Tip was I played probably 5 years with Andre, but he was he's a great player, and he was a captain. But I remember just talking to him about that, and he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, half the guys that come in here don't know who you are. They don't know who anybody is. If you could be playing with Bob Greasy, and they probably know him, or Larry Zonka, but they're just so into their little lives and stuff like that that it really doesn't matter who you are. But yeah, it was a great. I have zero complaints. I had injuries like everybody else had injuries, but that's part of it.
Well, you had injuries like everybody else, but how many surgeries?
I had 2 on my left shoulder. I had 1 on my right thumb, 2 on my wrists. This one right here, and that one. I had my left shoulder replaced. I had my hips replaced. I had a ACL torn. Multiple fingers, dislocated or broken. So back then it was great. I mean, you could do a lot of stuff, and the officials were, they only had I think 5 officials out there, so they really couldn't see you all the time. And I remember John Hanna, who was the best player I've ever played with, and just terrific human. But he had devised a place where he knew where the line judge was, the back judge, the referee, the umpire, he knew all where they were so he could hold, and not that he needed to, but, on a pass protection or whatever. And, I remember he would know everything about the officiating crew.
Wow.
And, back then that data was kind of not there to begin with, but Hogg found it somehow and incorporated in his game that, and
that's a riot.
Yeah. Just, he's a terrific player.
Huh. How did how did you deal with, so as you were mentioning, you're getting through the years of being captain, and as you got older, then you had all these newer people coming in who didn't really maybe they didn't respect you or other people. Perhaps they did, but they just didn't. They weren't like up to date. Did you deal with any like conflict, any like troublesome folks?
No, because I kind of understand. We really didn't have much in common. I had children and they didn't. They weren't married, and they're coming out of out of college, and I think the transition when I was working in '74 till like '86 and '87, that 12-year period, I think the players really grew coming out of college as far as endorsements and the business end of the game. When I was drafted, there wasn't any business. There was no way, go to a restaurant or something. There's nothing like that. So I think they kind of. It's not that they disrespected us. We weren't on the radar. Kind of. It was just
Different game.
Different game. Yeah.
Wow. The game's changed so much too, like you said, and you lived through quite a transition.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, at least from a little bit that I'm gleaming, like you didn't have a lot of power back then as a player. They kind of drafted you, told you you're playing, you're the captain, you're start here.
Yep.
And take it from there.
Yep.
Now
you're the player rep. You're traded. One of those.
Yeah. Now I feel
it was really. I mean, and how far the league has gone now from protecting their veterans than when I was right out of it. There was not until the movie Concussion came out. That's when they started, getting a little feedback from the ownerships, how they, or not the owners so much, but, the workings of a football team, how they would really want you to play sometimes when you shouldn't be playing. But you as a player want to play because that's what you get paid for and that's what you want to do and that's what you love and that's what your teammates are depending on you. And so, but when all that stuff started coming out about issues that players have when they're older, and then the different studies they have and stuff just back that up 100%. And so it's all of a sudden it started changing where, players, I think, and rightfully so, said, if I don't feel 100%, I'm not going. If I, back in the day we joke, if you have the test for concussion was, you come woozy off the field, the trainer grab you. What day is it? You say Saturday. Good weekend. Get back in there. That was a test, and it's come obviously because of the money and the money that players are getting. They want to be protected so they can play as long as they can. And
sure,
understand all that.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. So you played kind of when we had injuries where you got your bell rung.
We had suspension helmets.
What's that?
Suspension. There's just a thing that's suspended around your head. There is nothing between that suspension, that wrap around your head, and the helmet.
That can't be good.
Really?
This is a new suspension helmet. Would take all the blows and distribute it around the helmet and all that crap. And another thing I never realized until it happened, I wore my helmet for like 5 years.
The same one?
Same helmet. And then after about 5 years, I started
100 tackles a year.
Yeah. And then then we started. Then padding came in, and all the different helmets. The helmet companies trying to make things safer for players, and I think right now they're pretty good because you see some of the guys with that little thing over their helmet,
the Guardian cap.
The Guardian cap, yeah. So I think again, that movie Concussion opened a lot of eyes, as far as what's happening.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, look at you. You're good.
I got most of my marbles.
And a middle linebacker position too.
Yeah,
so every down, every play, banging heads.
Yeah.
So I mean, the question that's too broad to even ask, and I'll try to figure out how to ask it better, is like, what did it teach you? Like, what did you learn, like, that you passed on to? How many daughters do you have now? 5. You have 5 daughters. Yeah. Wow. What kind of? I mean, I met one of them. She's a Division I hockey player, and a funny story. I walk into the gym one day, and there's this girl doing push-ups just by herself in the middle of the gym. And not that girls can't do push-ups, but you don't see that very often. And I'm like, I don't know, half counting, like 20, 21, 22, 23. And she's just banging them out. And I was like, that's impressive. She's like, oh, yeah, I do 50 at the end of every workout. I'm like, whoa, that's just almost unheard of. And then it turns out it's your daughter. And so then I got to meet him, which is pretty awesome. But like, what kind of stuff did you pass down to them? What would you pass on to the audience? Kind of anything you feel like?
And well, I had a great mentor growing up, so I try to just I try to go to all their games when they're playing and be supportive and don't some bad coaching out there, and I had to bite my tongue a bunch of times, but I just wanted to make sure they knew I was there and I was interested, and my wife and I were going to be their biggest cheerleaders, so and enjoy the sport. And don't cheat the sport. Don't cheat yourself. If you're don't love it, don't do it, because those conflicts something will happen, not good. You'll choose something that was against your playing or something. So I just try to really talk to them at a level where if you decide to be a part of a team, be a part of the team.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you were a great teammate if you're a captain for 12 years.
Yeah, I still have really some close friends. But football players typically in northern states, unless you have children who are in school or something, you don't want to take them out. They all move back to home, or Georgia, Florida, Texas, California, and stuff like that. But we had a few guys stayed around, a few of my teammates.
Yeah. So what are these mistakes that you mentioned a couple times now, the mistakes of like coaches? What do you notice as like mistakes?
They should never put their hands on a player, ever. They should never. It's kind of like when they're mad, they shouldn't say something. When they're mad, they should like everybody else should think about it for a second before you say anything. And I think that and just try to get to know your players off the field. Try to know a little bit about them, and I think you'll find out why they do some things on the field. If they do what their home life's all about and stuff. Not to be nosy or anything, but just to know, what's up and how you can help them, and just be more than a guy who blows his whistle and yells at you.
Yeah, understanding that they're human and there's probably other things going on. They're not robots.
Right. And I think Mike Rabel's a perfect example of that. He's as involved with his players, and I think it's one reason why they play so hard for him. But all these other head coaches in the NFL now, they're very happy with what they're doing. They know they're very knowledgeable. They know they got great assistants. And that's the one other thing I learned about football and it was from Coach Fairbanks, who said, you guys won't play very long here. And when you go out in business or whatever you do, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. He goes, that's what I did with this football team. I got a linebacker coach who knows more about linebacker than I do. I got all these positional coaches. And when you get in business, you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. You want to have guys around you who know more than you do in every aspect of your business, because that'll help business. And that kind of was like, don't invite your best friend to be your vice president kind of deal, So, but there's a lot of life lessons you have, and
awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like humility is one of those ones that comes up. I mean, you don't obviously say it, but you embody this like humble, kind of nature, and that's kind of what you mean. Well, surrounding yourself with people who are probably more knowledgeable than you, because they're certainly out there, and to get to know people and to understand them. You don't necessarily know better than the players on the field, because they're in the play. They have a deeper understanding of it than you.
Right.
They're feeling their own home life and everything.
Yeah. The bad thing about football is they film it from the sidelines and they film it from the end zone. So you get two, so you can't, if you remember a play where you beat the guard and made a tackle, and the film will say, no, you didn't. You got blocked and the guy ran for you.
So during that phase of time, they kind of brought in television, right? Through the so you kind of played before, not before. Was there television?
Oh, yeah,
It was
sure.
all televised.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just got better and better and better and better.
Right.
And then did you guys what was your best year?
85. We went to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you played in the Super Bowl
Yeah,
team,
yeah.
and then that didn't end so good.
It started pretty good and ended awful. Yeah.
Yeah, for any younger people, why don't you tell us the final score of that game?
This final score was, we were ahead.
Yes, you were 3-0.
3-0. Had control of the game early, and we lost 40-10.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah, that didn't. That was,
Yeah, and Walter Payton didn't score a touchdown.
No, he didn't.
Nope.
Thanks to you, I imagine.
Well, no, just they had Fridge run the ball down by the goal line or red zone, and you started getting him in the game.
What was that like, tackling a dude that was 300 pounds?
I wanted to hit him so hard right in the knee, But he luckily for me probably he ran the other side. But I think because I played in the Pro Bowl that year and Walter played in it too, and so I got a chance to talk to him a little bit about it. He goes, he was really pissed off that he didn't score in the Super Bowl, that they didn't hand him the ball off, because he may have been the greatest runner of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Still might be.
still might be. He was awesome.
So what year was this for you?
86, my 12th year.
Oh, okay. So this was your
85
last.
season, January 86 we played.
Okay. And so what was that like? Yeah, 12th year. Did you know this was your last year at the time, or?
No, I played 2 more years
Oh,
after
you did.
that.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay, you did.
Yeah. But I John Hanna retired after that game, and I had thought about it because if we would have won it, I think I may have, but I thought, hey, we have a good team. We went to the Super Bowl. The next couple of years we got opportunities. So.
Wow. And so what was that like to fall short in that moment? I mean, 12 years, you guys were like grinding the first 12 years.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah, it was humiliating, just to be out there and getting beat like we were. And they had an incredible defense, and Steve Grogan and Tony Easton started the game, and Tony was sick before the game, and Grogan, Steve is tough as a piece of leather, and he went in there and he never gave up. He was getting hit by everybody, and it was. But again, it was as far as my business at the time. We had made it to the top, with our team and stuff like that. Not to the very top, but to the top.
Wow.
I was talking with someone earlier, and they were earlier today, and they were they're definitely upset because they're like an athlete. Then they had a bad loss yesterday, and we were kind of like going back and forth. And it turns out that I guess if you're an athlete, you're losing more than you're winning a lot of the time. Like you go into athletics to lose, and to be fully accepting of that is huge.
I remember those losses more than big wins,
Yeah.
which is kind of sad, really, because I don't know why. I think most athletes have that.
We definitely do. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
We all do. We remember the losses, the wins. I think that's why they give us the medals, so you can look and remember the medals.
Right.
But
Right.
you remember the losses, remember the injuries, you remember the
Yeah.
mistakes, or all the ways you could have done better.
Yeah.
It's like they live in your brain.
Raymond Berry was our coach for a while, and he's a great player, Hall of Fame receiver for the Baltimore Colts, with Johnny Unitas. And he would have us watch film on every play you're in and say, wasn't your assignment, wasn't your, tackling, style, wasn't your breaking passes up, it was your effort. Did you do 100% on every play of the game? And he goes, tomorrow I want you to watch film today. Tomorrow I want you to give me all your numbers. And it's amazing. It's amazing how many you're loafing all the time, really. If it's directly at you, you do it. But, if it's like a toss away from you, you weren't going to get into play unless the guy cuts way back. And you kind of just, put the motor down a little. You're not hustling as much as you should. And he said, he goes, I was part of world championship teams with Johnny Unitas, and I was about 3 plays into the game, and I had my first, loafing job. I was a wide receiver, so
Sure.
yeah, instead of running down there and trying to block the guy or just make him know you're around, he said, just try to increase that every game. That'd be the best thing for you. So it was good advice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He was my last coach, and so.
I actually remember, not this no comparison, but I remember my high school, we used to put a chart out on defense, my defensive coordinator, and he would, it would have the normal tackles, sacks, whatever, and then it would have loafs. And it would just, and you didn't want to be in that column for sure, but they were out there. Yeah. That's funny. I never didn't think about it till right now, but yep, that was an interesting chart. So the obvious question is, what made you a Hall of Famer?
Well, I was the situation again. Like when I got drafted, I was the highest draft choice. They didn't have a number 1 draft choice, so I was going to make the team, or would make them look really bad if they could get one guy they drafted to make it. And I just got a chance because of the strike and because they were a bad team, and they moved from a 4-3 to a 3-4, which I played in college, so I was perfectly comfortable with that. And I knew I'll never be able to have this forever, and I'm going to enjoy it as long as I can. And I love playing. I love to play. I got that, I think, a lot from my dad, And I had great coaches in college, great coaches in pros. I was really lucky as far as I had mentors who I, looked up to. And
Is there anybody that mentored you during your pro days?
I had a positional coach who became a coordinator. It was Fritz Shermer, and he was probably the closest thing I had as a mentor. Yeah, he was an older guy. He had been coaching with the Packers for a lot of years. Fritz passed away when I was probably 40 years old or so. He had his funeral in Milwaukee or whatever. But he would talk to you. He was kind of he talked with his hands and everything else like that. But he was a guy that would, if you made a play that lost it for your team, he'd be over there hugging you, not yelling at you or kicking you, because you don't try to make a mistake. You don't try to miss a tackle. You don't try to do all this stuff, and things happen.
Yeah.
Did you find that like mentality from your father? Because he was kind of like that. You said he would like put his arm around the person who made the mistake or whatever. Do you find that you internalized that for yourself? You were pretty kind to yourself about like any mistakes or loves or whatever.
I don't know. I think I was very hard on myself.
Yeah.
And my brother, who I have a younger brother, he was the same way. He was tough on himself.
Did he play?
He played college football. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's nice when a coach doesn't yell at you. I watch some of these coaches yell at their players and say, "What are you doing? You're not teaching them anything." They shut you off when you start yelling at them.
Right.
So I think again, I look back and I didn't have any real jerks as coaches. I didn't have any teammates that I got in fights with. I was just lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're hard enough on yourself. Why do you need someone else to kind of like double down on that?
Yeah.
Have you gotten better with that, or did you get better at that?
I think so. Yeah.
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 Yeah. During your professional play or afterwards?
After. Well, I try to be like when I had my girls. They're little and they're playing stuff. I never yelled them at told them. I try to promote the idea. You're having fun. You're on a team. These are going to be your friends. That stuff. So.
Do you think that they're hard on themselves, your daughters?
I think my youngest one is the hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after you finished playing. You were the head coach and AD at Curry College.
I was.
Locally.
8 years.
What was that like?
That was great. It is a losing program, and I met with the president of the school, Ken Quigley, who I became real good friends with, and he offered me the position of AD and head coach, and I got Vinny Ruzioni, Mike's brother, was the assistant AD and offensive coordinator, and then he basically was the AD. I mean, I was in name only, but we took a team that had lost probably won 5 games over the last 3 or 4 years or something, and they can only go one way. And we started getting kids who were really tough, like your buddy, and they would listen. And I got good coaches in there, and we all coached. I had one my best friend playing football was Steve Zabel, and he came up from Oklahoma and coached, and he would write a poem every day. He'd give a poem every week for the team, and the team were playing, and. We Friday we would just go out there with our helmets on, and Steve would set them down in the stands and read these poems to him that he made up.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
And I think the one I remember the most was we were playing Fitchburg State for the championship, and it was two tickets to Fitchburg, but he got the F and T mixed up, so it was 2 tickets to Pittsburgh. So, and he brought that up constantly in the poem.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you guys win a title at all?
Oh yeah.
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 Nice.
Yeah. We played in the NCAA's one year.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and then the year I left, and the defensive coordinator Skip Bandini took charge. Great coach. They went undefeated, and they won a game in the playoffs, which was the first win from a team in that league
In the
national playoffs.
Wow.
It was Ohio schools and Texas schools and whatever. So yeah.
Wow. So your style is your dad's style. Your style is proven. It's effective.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear that.
So what's life like now, or what was it like post football?
It was, I still think I missed it to a point where, man, I don't think it changed me, but I miss playing. I miss the camaraderie with your teammates and all that stuff. But I still had, I had a big family, I had a bunch of girls, so my time was always spent. But I knew I'd played enough. Mm-hmm. And then when this opportunity to coach at Curry College came about, I hadn't coached. Well, I coached 1 year with the Patriots. We had an awful season, and I was an awful coach, and I learned a lot. And then I coached at Curry College for 8 years, and that was so much fun, because Ryan Lepet and Steve Zabel and Mosi Tupu coached with me, and and all the guys who had good attitudes, good teammates, great teammates. So it was fun.
Awesome. And what about now? You're at Millennium. You're working out.
That's what I'm doing.
Yep. Staying in shape.
Yep, trying to.
Are you doing it consistently?
Got a lot of guys in there. I look up to and watch them working out. Mike is strong.
Yeah, I know.
He's strong.
We do jiu-jitsu together.
Oh, really?
Every time he takes a grip, I'm like, God, this guy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's got to be great for your balance, huh?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Yeah, we love jiu-jitsu. Yeah. He's doing great.
Getting better. I'm definitely getting better. So, but I love having you. I love getting to talk to you in the mornings. So I'm glad. And I do appreciate you coming and joining us today.
Oh, no problem.
And I feel like I could just continue to ask question after question after question. But I'll just do that on the bike in the mornings.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah. Well, I guess to have like a good kind of like takeaway, and I know that we've already asked you about, what did you take away from football? But as I mentioned, we have a lot of people here who, who just want to live a better life, and so wellness of the mind, wellness of the body. But yeah, what message might you have for them? You have a couple people listening, and your story is so cool, and you've been through so much, and you've had so many different experiences. But I think the luxury of, I don't want to say like luxury, but rather the opportunity that you've had of seeing people grow. Whether it's your daughters or the players that you're playing with or the players that you're coaching. What do you think? What are some important qualities to work on? What are some important skills?
I think, and I think this is probably the maybe the hardest thing to do, but to be a good teammate. If you don't like the guy personally, you don't like what he does, it affects his game on the field. Then you can talk to him. But if it doesn't, you have no right to say anything to him, and just avoid him if you can't make a connection. But I would say, yeah, you got to enjoy it. You got to have fun. Life is so. I look back and it seemed like yesterday I played. So, I was 36 my last year, so it's 40 years ago.
Wow.
Enjoy what you do.
Yep.
Love what you do.
Have fun.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and you're so attentive too, and you've brought that up a number of times, like being attentive to people, showing them that you care. That's definitely a big thing that you've focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a work in progress right now.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
We're always great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You got it, Mike.
If you guys like this or like the content, please like, share, send it. We're going to be sending it out. But we look forward to catching you guys all next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.